Hello and welcome to another video by Rick Miracle, me. This is going to be a video in my series New World Order and Media and Press Releases. I have several different series going on. The Freemasonry series, Freemasonry and Satanism. My live streaming events for July and August 2018 before YouTube canceled my live streaming capability. My Sky Spring series, monitoring the chemicals they're dumping in the sky, the geoengineering. I found out about that in 2005, and I've been photographing and videoing the dumping of chemicals in the sky since. And then I had my Messages by Rick Miracle, another series when I have just special videos I want to make and get the message out there. So I have several different series and I keep adding to them when it's appropriate. And I thought the topic I want to talk about today is one of those appropriate moments to add another video to my New World Order 2018 media and press releases. And I have been collecting press releases that I print out and save on my computer, and other research material that I download and save or print out, and magazines and the New World Order media and press releases. So I have, if I were to stack the papers up, probably 10 feet tall, since 2005 and 6, 7, and 2008. When I would see things in the news, online, or research material, I printed the stuff out and put it in boxes, and I have all that stuff to go through for every year. New World Order media and press releases. It could keep me busy for the rest of my life if I tried to get that 10-foot stack into all these videos. But I do what I can. So today's topic to me is extraordinarily important. And if you've been watching my videos, you know that I get the Nexus magazines and share the information. I'm trying to have all the issues since I started my research 2005. And I know I can go online to Nexus and find the magazines I don't have, and they can ship them to me from Australia. It's rather expensive. But I have a lot from 2005 and 2006, 2008. I think 2016 they quit selling these magazines in the United States, or allowing subscriptions, because some of the mind control articles were causing some kind of friction between them and I guess the government of the USA. But anyways, they are now printing these, and you can get a subscription to Nexus magazine, or you can go to the major bookstores and buy these. And one of the articles in this month's issue, the recent issue, was kind of alarming to me, and I read the article, and I have a whole lot of other research material. And I thought it was just important that we talk about it, that people know about it. All right. Well, it doesn't say it on the front, but if you go back to the Science News, on the front of the magazine, it doesn't highlight this particular topic. It does have here the Prior machine, magnetism, and microwaves. But anyways, I was reading the magazine as I usually do, and the great risk of 5G. What we know and don't know, by Martin L. Paul, PhD. So as usual, I'm going to read this and throw in my 2 cents, my comments. And I have a lot of other documents in my research, press releases and research material that I'd like to add to this video. But I think we the people need to wake up about this technological system that's being installed called 5G cell phone systems, communication systems. That's 5 gigahertz. And your microwave oven operates at about 2.4 gigahertz. So that's half the frequency of the 5G network coming online. And of course, you wouldn't stick your head in a microwave oven and turn it on. I don't think you would. So why would they be putting all these transmission systems in that frequency range and higher, when these wavelengths of these frequencies equal the wavelengths of the cells in your body, oxygen molecules, etc.? Heavy metals dumped in the sky with the sky spraying, those particles are in your body, my body, and when they get hit with a frequency that's the exact same size, that's called resonation. It resonates. And when something resonates, it vibrates. It agitates. It destroys. Plain enough? This is grade school, high school science. This is not rocket science. Anybody can understand. You would not stick your head in a microwave oven or a big microwave transmitter on a ship. You wouldn't go walk in front of it. And if you go to those new cell phone towers that are beside the road now everywhere, and even on top of local downtown buildings and church steeples and light poles, if you go next to the transmission stations, which they are putting right next to the road, it says to keep back, stay away, under surveillance. But if you have a good camera, you can just probably zoom up and take a picture of the warning sign, which warns you about the dangers of the microwave frequencies and the 1-inch thick black cables that take power up to the top. So there's a lot of information out there warning about this system coming online, probably already online in most of the world. And I think it's a weaponized system and can target any one of us at any time. And then, of course, they meta tag us with all the metadata on who we are if they deem that we are a threat to their pursuit of a global world order and to destroy the Christian religion. If you are a resistor and they have metadata on you and you're carrying around a cell phone or you're microchipped or your car is a smart car or iPad or computer or your credit cards in your wallet have chips on them, then they can track you. And if you go by one of these transmission stations, maybe they can turn up the juice and zap you. You think I'm kidding. I wish I wasn't kidding. Excuse me, I wish I was kidding. Sometimes I say the wrong word. But let me read from this and throw in my 2 cents. And again, my videos are for education, for people to wake up, see what's going on. There are 2 issues that are essential to understanding 5G. One is that pulsed electromagnetic fields, EMF, are, in most cases, much more biologically active than non-pulsed, often called continuous wave EMFs. So traditionally, if you turned on the radio and you tuned into an FM or AM station, it was just a steady stream transmitted frequency. But apparently, these new systems in the 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 gigahertz range, 5G networks, cell phone transmission systems, a wireless transmission system, wireless, they can pulse it. Boom, boom, boom. So just imagine you have billions of cells in your body, and they're about the same size or half the size. And they have thin little walls on your cells and the oxygen molecules in your body. And they're getting pulsed. Boom, 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 banging on the shell of your cells and other biological things in your body. DNA, different kinds of cells, plasma, blood, water, heavy metals. Boom! They're all getting bombarded with these invisible booms. And if they tweak it to the right frequency, they can enter inside these different cells in your body and other biological things in your body. So pulsed is probably part of the dangerous key here, according to this article. I think even the direct streaming continuous radiation in these high frequencies are equally dangerous. A second is that the EMFs, electromagnetic fields, act by putting forces on the voltage sensor of the VGCC, the voltage-gated calcium channels. So like I said, there are other things in your body besides blood cells, calcium and other biological components to your body. Calcium channels. So apparently, if you don't know how your cells in your body work, how they get food or energy, we are bioelectrical beings. In other words, we have polarities in the cells. Let's say they're negative on the inside and looking for a positive charge to come by. And if it's keyed correctly, the cell, you have 1 billion of them or more in your body, will zap the protein that's flowing in your bloodstream because you ate some food and your stomach digested it, separated the waste from the proteins and the nutrients. They flow through your bloodstream. They have a positive charge. Your cell will have a negative charge. And as it goes by, it zaps it like a fish grabbing a shrimp or something to eat. And that's why Monsanto genetically modified foods are not good for us, because when they try to attract something, it's got to be keyed. And genetically modified foods are not keyed like regular foods that you eat. So when your cell wants to attract it, it's the wrong identification. Other cells will come along, white cells, and will go around this enemy and cover it and smother it and try to kill it. And that's called cancer or a tumor. If something is in your body, let's say it's dirt, something that doesn't belong there, recognized as an enemy. So when each of your blood cells, that's how it gets nutrients, the electrical energy protein, it sucks it in. Billions of them in your body. So if that's how they work, they're electromagnetic. We're bioelectrical beings, spiritual beings also. We wouldn't operate if we didn't have our spiritual essence. If you took the spiritual part of me from my body, this physical body would just plop over. Be like taking a battery out of your radio at the beach, and you try to turn it on and you go, I can't because the battery's out of it. Well, if you took your spirit or your soul out of your biological body, your body would just flop over, because apparently that spark of the spiritual essence of us keeps us operating. But other than that, our biological unit is operated on electrical polarities. All your muscles, all the cells, all the growth. And if you look into this at all, your body probably replenishes itself every couple months. Almost every cell in your body gets regenerated. You eat food, you drink water. So if they mess with the environment, Mother Nature, they're messing with our health. And of course, if you put things into the human body that the system doesn't recognize, it attacks it, and that's what gives us cancer or tumors. So anyways, the voltage-gated calcium channels found in cell membranes, here we go, the wall of a cell, opening these calcium channels and allowing excessive calcium ions, electrons and ions, to flow into the cell. So ionization is more of like a plasma effect of electrons and protons. If you can understand plasma, it's more like a thin, watery substance, a broken down form of electron or proton, a plasma. So when the ions come into your body, your bloodstream, the cells open up a channel and feed on it. So when they transmit all these 5G microwave systems, these new towers they're putting up everywhere, it creates an ionization effect, not coming from your body processing food and water for a nutrient. It's an external transmission of ionization, allowing excessive calcium ions to flow into the cell. The voltage sensor is extraordinarily sensitive to these electrical forces. So your body is sensitive to these electrical forces. We are biological beings, but it's a very low quantity of voltage. Nothing compared to these high-powered transmission stations they're putting next to the road and planned wireless systems in everybody's house, in every room, and in every car, every sidewalk, facial recognition. Just imagine if you could see all the radiations being bombarded at me if I was walking down a city street. If you could see it all, it would be a horrific thing to see. You'd say, oh my goodness, you're being bombarded by all these different frequency ranges and different power levels, and those cells in your body are being bombarded with those vibrations, and some of them are the exact size and are causing your cells to mutate. And then, of course, the white cells will attack the mutations and bring you cancer and tumors. Like I said, you don't really need to have a lot of science understanding to get this. It's pretty simple. A healthy environment probably gives us healthy bodies. A polluted environment gives us a polluted body. And these excessive transmission systems are pollution. But let me get back to this article by this PhD, Martin L. Paul, in the Nexus magazine, the November-December 2018 issue, which you can go down to the store and purchase, like Books A Million, Barnes & Noble, etc. Or go online and subscribe to Nexus, because apparently now the United States is allowing them to sell them in the United States. Before I had to order them from Australia. The couple years that I couldn't buy them in the United States. So the voltage sensor is extraordinarily sensitive to these electrical forces, such as the safety guidelines are allowing us to be exposed to electromagnetic frequencies that are something like 7.2 million times too high. So don't believe me. Believe this author, this PhD writer of this article in the Nexus magazine. 7.2 million times too high. So don't believe me. Believe this author, this PhD writer of this article in the Nexus magazine. 7.2 million times too high. So don't believe me. Believe this author, this PhD writer of this article in the Nexus magazine. those frequencies and all those wireless systems and all the smart systems and the smart meter on your home and the smart TV and the smart car and the iPad and facial recognition system, artificial intelligence, it's 7.2 million times too high. You think this is a recipe for disaster for the human race? That's what all the hoopla is all about, why people are getting upset, and in this book, even protesting. Demonstrations everywhere. The reason that the industry has decided to go to the extremely high frequencies of 5G is that such extremely high frequencies, it is possible to carry much more information via much more pulsation than it is possible to carry with lower frequencies, even in the microwave range. Well, that makes sense. They're faster, they can do more, and they can even have really high voltage transmission systems, high wattage, high energy. And I don't think they're turning these things up to their maximum potential yet. Some people may have been attacked. Apparently in Washington State, they had these trucks with these microwave transmission transmitters on the top of them, and they were driving around the national forest bombarding the microwave frequencies at high voltages, high wattages, high energy levels, testing it out on the local people. Weaponized microwave transmission systems. So if they are testing this out and they know what they can do, and they're putting all these transmission systems on our city streets and highways and buildings and churches and lampposts and in the houses, and they're also planning some world revolution, possibly World War III, and they have some kind of concern about the resistors, the people who will get in the way of the global world order. Can you see where this is going? The potential control they can have to eliminate resistors? And this kind of thinking, it makes you think World War III is going to be one crazy war. And is there any doubt that it's going to come about? Even Albert Pike in the 1880s prophesied exactly what they would have for World War I, World War II, World War III. And his two predictions about who would be fighting those wars were exactly correct. And the stage is set to fulfill the third prediction. And it does seem to have some kind of biblical component to it, some kind of fulfillment of prophecy involving the spiritual realm. As much as I don't like to throw that in there because it throws people off, it seems to be the case. We can be assured, therefore, that 5G will involve vastly more pulsation than do EMFs to which we are currently exposed. So they plan on turning up the volume, so to speak, on this system. And with artificial intelligence, software, computer controlling this stuff, making decisions without human intervention. And they'll be on the lookout for certain keywords or actions or things you say or books you buy, videos you watch, metadata. And a computer will automatically target somebody that reaches a particular code, threat system when they turn up the threat volume. Like right now they have the terrorism threat level green or yellow or red. Well, when they turn these artificial intelligent computers to a higher threat level, the metadata that gets triggered will trigger a whole lot of people to be attacked who fall within those parameters. Just what my research tells me. That's what Jade Helm 15 in 2015 was all about, when they were sending all those troops and equipment all over the United States pretending some kind of martial law event using AI, artificial intelligence, computer systems to make decisions because they know they can't rely on humans to do the horrible things that need to be done to all the resistors of this globalism plan. All right, so it follows that any biological safety test of the 5G must use the very rapid pulsations, including whatever very short-term spikes may be present. They are to be present in genuine 5G. So it says here phased arrays. There is an additional process that is planned to be used in 5G. Phased arrays. Here, multiple antenna elements act together to produce highly pulsed fields, which are designed for 5G to produce increased penetration. Increased penetration. These high frequencies can go right into your body, bang on the walls, membranes of your cells, and other biological components of our human bodies. They've been doing a lot of testing to see what they can do. They have a plan. Does anybody even doubt there's a plan for a global world order? There are social conditioning is going on every day. I even had a weird thing happen today. Somebody came to the door, wanted to know who was living in my house. The American Community Survey, the United States Census Bureau, drove here in a really ratty old car and had this pamphlet and had a card here. How will my participation help me and my community? Is the information I provide confidential? What is the American Community Survey? So I live out in the country, and very outside of the city, on an acre of land. And it was highly suspicious that this person drove up in an old car and wanted to know how many people were living here, what our names were, and all of this stuff. I wouldn't let her in the house. So I do know there is a lot of activity going on documenting everybody, where they are, who they are, and of course all that information about people getting registered to vote. And they even say in all the commercials, we don't care what party you belong to. We just want you to register to vote. And of course, with that system, I am aware there are more poorer people than there are richer people. And historically, the poorer people tend to be Democrats. So I can see how they would want everybody to vote because they would get more Democratic votes if that was the case and people were not awake. The other thing is they would get to another system of tracking everybody. So they want to get everybody into the system. They're not trying to leave anybody out. So we're talking about the phased array system here to increase penetration. 5G will entail particularly powerful pulsations to be used, which may therefore be particularly hazardous. The only data we have, to my knowledge, on multi-millimeter wave frequencies of 5G used non-pulse EMFs in the millimeter frequencies range of 5G, not genuine 5G. So the only data they have is steady stream 5G, not pulsed or phased array 5G. And phased array is pretty easy to understand. Just imagine, a dozen antennas on one street, and each one is transmitting a frequency, but the next one is only like a microsecond later, and then the next one. So they're all not coming out at the same time. It's like when people do that singing thing, that one person starts singing and then the next person harmonizes in and the next person. So they're just overlaid. They have that system of phase arraying the transmission systems. So when they phase array, set them all a little bit apart, it actually comes out as a controlled type of stream. Again, you don't need to be a science scholar to get this. They're testing all these different capabilities and designs and how they affect we the people. And for a long time, they've been into the mind control research. I've just got some new books in the mail. Deadly Deceits, my 25 years in the CIA. The secret team, the CIA and its allies in control of the United States mind control projects, MK Ultra. I've got a lot more research to share on this with the book reviews. JFK, the CIA, Vietnam, and the plot to assassinate JFK, whose theories inspired the movie JFK. So I have all these big, thick books. I've been reading this one. I'll probably be making a video on it really soon. The Devil's Chessboard, Allen Dulles, the CIA, and the Rise of American Secret Governments. Big, thick book. All this is related to some kind of control system coming online. The Most Dangerous Book in the World, 911 as a Mass Murder Ritual. And then I'm reading about these weaponized microwave systems coming online. And I have plenty of evidence here to show that there are some concerning issues. All right, back to the article. Such millimeter waves have been shown to produce a number of downstream effects of voltage-gated calcium channel activation. That would be on the cells of your body. 1 millimeter wave study showed that it activated both the VGCCs, the voltage-gated calcium channels on the membranes of your cells, and also the voltage-gated potassium channels, suggesting that it worked via the voltage sensor, as do other EMFs. And again, remember, your cells in your body consume their energy, their food, because of an electrical polarity. So the outside stimulus of the ionization or the electromagnetic high-frequency radiations, phased arrays, or pulsed, I don't think it takes a whole lot of thinking to say that, well, there could be something wrong with this. It might not be healthy for we people. You think? Would you put your head in a microwave oven? Would you stick a gun into your head and pull the trigger? No. Any such data tells us almost nothing about how biologically active the genuine, very highly pulsed 5G will be. And remember, this author, Martin L. Paul, PhD, is a smart guy. And I've been throwing in my 2 cents here, just adding more data to this so we can get a clearer picture of the potential weaponization of this and the incidental or accidental danger to this system that they're unwilling to even test the effects. I have documentation that you can't believe. Why would the government have legislation in North Carolina that are allowing harmful 5G cell towers in neighborhoods and no citizen feedback? They passed legislation that we the people can't have any feedback. We can't interfere with the installation of these systems. I'm not kidding. You can go look this up. This was on Natural News. June 6, 2017. The telecommunication industry can't wait to release the next generation of mobile phone technology, a controversial network standard known as 5G, which could be unveiled as soon as 2019. Oh my! Less than 60 days away. But many citizens who will be directly affected by the technology, high-intensity radio frequencies, aren't being kept in the loop about what's going on, including in the state of North Carolina, where legislators are right now pushing to have 5G towers located in neighborhoods without the consent of local residents. I mean, they're even passing legislation. House Bill HB 310 would allow the 5G transmitters, 5G, to be installed on existing towers in public right-of-ways, greenways, conservation lands, and other types of property outside of right-of-ways, with the exception of single-family residences. So I suspect they can't actually come put one on your house. But of course, a lot of people are voluntarily doing it by having the wireless transmission system in their house, and involuntarily doing it because they don't know, with their cell phones, which can monitor things you say. So be careful. Remember, the metadata, the warning level could be turned up, and the metadata can be looking for people to be doing certain things, categorizing them as enemy of the state. Smart refrigerators, smart meters and the electrical meters outside of our houses, facial recognition systems. So I believe they're gathering all this data and categorizing each of us right now, even with that person showing up here at my house today. Just some weird things going on, and people need to be paying attention to this stuff, in my opinion. Without any input whatsoever from those who live near these future transmission facilities, it would also go a step further in actually barring local governments from passing their own laws to prevent this technological invasion from occurring against the will of the people. All, of course, for the benefit of the mobile phone providers. Dubbed the Wireless Communication Infrastructure Sitting Bill, HB 310, was put together in secret. Are governments acting in secret? By a panel of industry stakeholders and local government representatives with no input from members of the public who will be affected by it. The bill's primary sponsor, Representative Jason Shane, is also on record, says he's a Republican from Lincolnton, as having received over $20,000 in campaign contributions from the telecom industry. So wonder who he's working for. According to votesmart.org, which says a lot about who's calling the shots and trying to get it passed. So when I showed you all these books and the mass murder rituals, according to this book with 911, and all these other programs I've been going over with mind control and Jade Helm 15 in 2015, troops, trucks, tanks, equipment going everywhere, the conversion of Walmarts into FEMA facilities, which have been exposed by lots of people, the videos you can watch on YouTube. Secret passages of Noahide laws in the United States, some saying making it actually a criminal thing to be a Christian, but they're not enforcing those laws quite yet. And when they do, this is the technology and systems that they'll have online. And it doesn't take a whole lot of thinking to see how this could be turned against us. They're everywhere. There's no escaping them. And we carry around our cell phones and other smart credit cards in our wallets and our cars. So you really have to run around in the nude to avoid detection, but then they have facial recognition, so you have to put a mask on if you're going to run around nude so they can't see what your face looks like. Back to the article in the magazine. Got a bunch of other documents here to look at. Tens of millions of antennae. I take it that from their statements, both John Ryan, Director of Public Health, European Commissioner of Public Health, Director, and Arias Vincenus, Head of the Cabinet for Health and Food Safety, the Commissioner for the European Commission, are ready to put out tens of millions of 5G antennae to afflict every single person in the EU, European Union, with 5G radiation without even a single biological test of safety of the genuine 5G. In the United States, the FCC, Federal Communication Commission, has taken a much worse position. The FCC is not only willing to allow such completely untested exposures, but has also been aggressively pushing to promote installation of 5G antennae, such that antennae are already being installed in parts of the U.S. In a world where shocking behavior has become less and less shocking, I consider EU and the United States views and actions to be shocking. So this is not me, this is a PhD, Martin Pall, P-A-L-L, the author of this article in Nexus Magazine. The current edition you can go buy. The U.S. situation is mass insanity. That's what it says here. The U.S. situation is mass insanity. If you're hearing the words coming out of my mouth on this video, don't you think all of this, if it's true, is mass insanity? One, that they're doing it, they've got to be psychopathic and maniacs. And two, we the people, from understanding basic grade school, high school science, knowing we wouldn't stick our head in a microwave oven, knowing all the data they're collecting, knowing the facial recognition systems are everywhere, artificial intelligence, monitoring everything we do, collecting metadata, preparing for a global world order. It doesn't take a genius or Sherlock Holmes to figure this out. So the U.S. situation is mass insanity. As a few friends of mine have said, it seems like we're living in the Twilight Zone, Rick. I have people commenting on my videos, they feel lonely. None of their friends or family members will acknowledge any of these things I'm talking about right now, or that they're dumping chemicals in the sky, or numerous other things going on. False news, fake terror events, legislation passed, even President Donald Trump saying the United States recognizes Jerusalem as the capital of Israel, fulfilling some kind of biblical prophecy and preparing for the next stage of a world revolution. And even YouTube taking down only one video of my almost 600 videos on YouTube called World Revolution, published in 1921 by Nestor Webster, talking about the Illuminati, Freemasons, and the French Revolution, who were controlled a lot by the Zionist people, the people controlling Israel today. The President Donald Trump just gave them the Dome of the Rock, Palestine's Jerusalem. So I bet the people over there feel like they've won this world war that's probably been like invisible. Most people don't even know we're under attack, and that they're setting this particular weaponized system in place and computerized information system getting metadata on all of us in place, artificial intelligence, no human controls. Once they turn up the volume, the terror threat level, it could include many of us. We would be deemed the threats to national security for their global world order. I would have hoped that the Europeans, who think of themselves as being much more thoughtful than Americans, would have been genuinely more thoughtful. See, I would have thought a lot of people in the United States would wake up to this stuff. Why does 5G need such high numbers of antennae? Is it because the 5G radiation is much more absorbed as it enters various materials? It says it right here. Those high frequencies and high energy levels enter various materials, including our human bodies. Of course. If you don't believe it, take a magnet on one side of your hand and put a piece of steel on the other side of your hand so that there's a space of your hand, and the magnet will operate right through your skin and hold the metal right there. So the electromagnetic energy, just like X-rays, at these frequencies, goes right through your body. And if it's pulsed, it's banging on the doors, the walls, the membranes of your blood cells, the potassium and calcium and other heavy metals in your body, proteins, nutrients, organs, the plasma in your blood. And what can some of those frequencies, if they're fine-tuned, pulsed, and phase arrayed, it doesn't take a whole lot of thinking to say, wow, Rick, if they really studied this and tested it, which they have, they know what they can do. They've been driving those weaponized trucks in Washington State. You can look up these weaponized microwave transmitters, crowd control trucks. I first noticed those pictures in military magazines in 2012 and 2011. Weaponized crowd control, microwave crowd control trucks. Look them up. Don't believe me. When you see the trucks, you'll go, oh my. They had a bunch of journalists standing in front of the trucks, and they were turning up the volume of the microwave transmissions, the dishes on the trucks, and it was making the journalists all tingle. But that was low voltage, low volume. If they really wanted to get the crowd to just drop like dead animals, you just got to turn it up. Why does 5G need such high numbers of antennae? Is it because that 5G is much more absorbed as it enters various materials? The approach is to use many more antennae found every few houses. The approach is to use many more antennae with one found every few houses. So they want one of these antennas for every couple houses, every 3 houses. So 5G can sufficiently penetrate local walls in your home. Such absorption usually involves the interaction with electrically charged groups, such as this one. Very high absorption is likely to involve placing forces on electrically charged groups. And a lot of people are concerned about those smart meters that are put outside your house. And basically, they can pulse a magnetic field. Boom. So it engulfs your whole house. And if you know how radar works, when they pulse it from the airport or from a plane, they send out a pulse and it bounces off anything out there. So when it comes back, they can see where something is. So if your smart meter is pulsing and somebody's looking outside with maybe a special kind of camera detector, and they can see you moving around the house because of the pulsed electromagnetic field. Just like a radar system. Cascading health effects. Page 48, Nexus Magazine. Because such forces are the way in which EMFs activate the VGCCs, the voltage channels, the membranes in your cells, it seems highly likely, therefore, that the 5G radiation will be particularly active in the VGCC activation. So these pulsed systems in different frequencies will activate the mechanisms on the membranes of your blood cells, for better or for worse. Oh, listen to this. This is a PhD author, and I have a stack of documents here. I've been studying this material for years. And I talked about it in many other videos, but I don't think I've ever talked about it as in depth as I want to on this video. And this article certainly came at a fortuitous time for me to do it. A lot of crazy things going on in our world. And they're in a seemingly a really rush to get this 5G system in place. Maybe they're worried about we the people waking up sooner than they're ready. Well, I just noted they came by to make sure who was living in my house today. A little spooky when you think about it. In summary then, 5G is predicted to be particularly dangerous for each of the 4 different reasons. Number 1, the extraordinarily high numbers of antennae that are planned. Number 2, the very high energy outputs which will be used to ensure penetration. The extraordinary high pulsation levels. So remember, it's just not a blast of a frequency. Boom, boom, boom. Of course, they could go boom, boom, boom. Or boom, boom. All these things have different effects. Can you imagine agitating a billion cells in your body? What it would do to them? Like rocking the boat? At certain frequencies, it could be quite detrimental. You ever seen those people who can sing with the very high tenor or a tuning fork? Bing! And across the room, a glass breaks, shatters. Frequencies are powerful. Could they shatter the walls, the membranes of our cells? I say they can. Enough of that energy in the right frequency, the right pulsation rate. Certainly, like a microwave, they could burn it, cook it, agitate it, resonate with it. Number 4, the apparent high-level interactions of the 5G frequency on charged groups presumably include the voltage center charged groups. And again, remember, we are bioelectric beings, and our whole bodies, all your muscles, all your joints, your fingers, your elbows, your arm, everything is polarized. That's what controls your muscles. We're a bioelectrical computer system. And this other 5G system they're bringing online is going to compete and override our human system. I wouldn't be surprised if they could target people and actually erase their memories, destroy the electromagnetic impulses in our brains. Give them a nice pulse of an electromagnetic blast, and you'll stand there like a zombie, not even remembering a thing, acting like an infant. Now, what the telecommunication industry argues is that 5G radiation will be mostly absorbed in the outer 1 to 2 millimeters of the body, therefore claiming we don't have to worry about the effects. There is some truth to that, but there are also some caveats that make any conclusions made from that information much more suspect. In any case, those surface effects of 5G will have especially strong impact on organisms with much higher surface area to volume ratios. Consequently, I predict that many organisms will be much more impacted than we will. This includes insects and arthropods, birds, small mammals, amoeba. It includes plants, large trees. Do you ever think about all these transmission systems, what it does to all those cells in those biological vegetation and animals and insects and worms? So sometimes you don't have to actually kill the human. You could just kill all the resources around the human. And it seems like our environment is under attack. A lot of videos and websites and books and magazines. A lot of people have been warning about this for a long time. Droughts and fires, sustainability issues, terrorism, radiations, Fukushima. I could go on and on and on. A lot of social conditioning, messing with our education system, economic system. And so the frequencies can mess with the reproductive organs that are highly exposed. So I guess your reproductive organs are right out there for targeting. I predict there will be a major ecological disaster as a consequence of 5G. And I predict if there is, it's intentional. One, I can say that in many states all over the country, New York, many, they have passed legislation so that there cannot be any public input. Even local governments can't get in the way of what they're setting in place. So what does that tell you? So this author, this PhD, says that he predicts there will be major ecological disasters as a consequence of 5G. And even Dr. Mercado and many other, Max Egan, so many others, the Fullerton Journal, whatever his name is, I have his document here. Everybody's warning about this, but nobody seems to be listening. Hardly anybody. As you already saw in this magazine, there are people over there in Europe protesting. And in the United States, there's been a lot of protesting and demonstrations and people trying to stop this from coming online. So this will include vast conflagrations because EMF exposure makes plants much more flammable. Wow. And I do know where I live that the trees seem to have an unusual amount of burnt leaves. And apparently it has something to do with the dumping of chemicals in the sky. And I was watching a video. I'll try to explain this briefly. But basically, a lot of people are aware of something called the ozone level around the planet. And if you get a hole in the ozone layer, then radiation, X-rays, and other detrimental frequencies can go through the atmosphere, and those frequencies go into our bodies and actually destroys the DNA and can kill us. Harmful radiations from space. The ozone level protects us. A lot of people are aware of that. So think about all these radiation transmission systems they're bringing online. Well, anyways, the video I was watching was saying the government is completely aware of this, and they're dumping all those heavy chemicals, metals, aluminum, barium, and strontium in the sky. And apparently, they get together. I'll try to make a little thing here. And that stuff that's dumped in the sky, they get together, the heavy metals, in clouds. And you know what happens if two clouds come together in a sky when you're having a thunderstorm? They double the charge, which creates lightning. The difference of potential. So apparently, according to this video I was watching, when they dump those heavy metals in the sky and they charge them up, heavy metals get charged up in this ozone level, and then they come together with a double charge. They have a big electrical arc. Boom! And apparently in the ozone level, when they have that big arc, it causes a huge hole in the ozone layer because if it's a big vortex like a tornado. So they're doing this intentionally. allowing radiation from outer space, the sun, to come through the ozone level and burn up all the plankton in the ocean, or trees and leaves and plants and bugs and bees. And even if they were to time it and control the dumping of these chemicals in these big clouds that go together and double the charge and create the arc and create the vortex, they could have a whole city or a whole area be exposed to harmful radiations for predicted amounts of time. So my point there is, watching that video the other day, it seems like they have numerous weaponized systems coming online. It's almost too much to believe. But apparently this one person was trying to explain exactly why they're dumping all those heavy metals in the sky, that they are creating these effects, and they can tear holes in the ozone level and just allow this pure radiation from space to expose, and it takes a while for the hole to close back up. So I read about all this stuff and I just say, oh my. So apparently the radiation is not only going to affect humans, apparently plants and bugs and all the other components we need in our environment to survive. Plankton, fish, everything's affected. Especially embryos or sperm cells or infants and baby children. Apparently, according to this article and more, the autism and damaged fetuses and all that is supposed to go exponentially high. And everybody knows what an exponential curve is. Usually you have weather cycles like this. It gets warmer and colder. But if you have all of a sudden a runaway global warming, it goes like this, exponentially straight up. It goes off to a tangent. Basic high school algebra, trigonometry, geometry. All right, consequences deep in the body. Back to this article. But let's get back to humans. The industry has also made claims that more conventional microwave frequencies, EMFs, are limited in effect to the outer 1 centimeter of the body. We know that is not true. However, because of the effects deep in the human brain, on the heart and the hormone systems. So you got a cell phone tower above farmland, a picture here. Everybody's seen these everywhere these days. Perhaps the most important two studies demonstrating effects deep within the body are the studies of Professor Hassig and his colleagues in Switzerland on cataract formation in newborn calves. So apparently this cell phone tower next to the farmland here you're seeing. So imagine there's probably cows on that farmland, and apparently it's causing the cows to have cataracts. If you ever had a cataract, or you know anybody that's elderly with cataracts, they can't see. So these frequencies, if they do go only a millimeter, centimeter into your body, does it say here? Your eyes are certainly readily available to be targeted. Your ears, the whole skin, the biggest organ in your body. So the cataract formation in newborn calves. These two studies clearly show that when pregnant cows are grazing, I guess they're gazing too, grazing near mobile phone base stations, also called cell phone towers. The calves are born with very greatly increased incidences of cataracts. So I suppose if it does it to a cow or an animal, it can do it to us. It follows from these findings that even though the developing fetuses are very deep in the body of the mother and should be highly protected from the EMF exposure, they are not so protected. And because the EMF safety guidelines in Switzerland are 100 times more stringent than are the safety guidelines in most of Europe and the US and Canada and most of the rest of the world, the more general safety guidelines allow greatly excessive exposures and penetration of effects. So it's doing it to the cows in Switzerland, and their rules, their laws are 100 times more stringent than our laws. Oh my. The claims of industry that microwave frequencies, EMFs, only act in the outer centimeters of the body are clearly false. I bet if you went and looked this up on Snoops, they'd say there's no harm in cell phone towers or cell phones. Don't worry about 5G or wireless or anything. Just don't trust it. When you go look up things, you're going to find websites that are particularly trying to social condition people, mind control people, tell them there's nothing to worry about. They'll tell you about anything you look up almost. I've tried it. But the fact is, there is something to worry about. You just have to pay attention. But most people don't want to fight it. They say, hey, I found something that tells me this is not true, so I'm going to believe that. Get away from me. How then can both conventional microwave frequency EMFs and 5G radiation act deeply within the body? So how can those frequencies act deeply within our body? You may correctly observe that the electrical effects of the EMFs activate the voltage sensor and that the direct electrical forces are rapidly attenuated in the body. So how can we get deep effects? I think the answer is that the magnetic parts of the EMFs have been known for decades to penetrate much more deeply than the electrical parts. So remember, when you do have a radio wave transmission in the air, when it does strike your body, it does create a magnetic field, and that goes right into your body. You can go to the airport and get scanned and see that the magnetic field, the X-ray, goes right through you. The magnetic fields put forces on mobile electrical charge groups dissolved in the aqueous phases of the body, and small individual movements of the charged groups can regenerate electrical fields that are essentially identical to the electrical fields of the original EMFs. And remember, water conducts electricity, and we humans are what? 90% water, 80% water? Something to think about. Carrying the same frequency in some pulsation pattern, although with lower intensity. An example of this is given in the Liu and Yuno study. Because the voltage sensor is so stunningly sensitive to electrical forces, part of the reason for that is the very high level of amplification of the electrical field across the plasma membrane. We have an almost perfect way in which to produce EMF effects deeply within our bodies. Let me try to read that again. The electrical field across the plasma membrane, plasma is like like an ionization, foamy water in your body, plasma. There's plasma in your blood, and water conducts electricity. So the plasma membrane, we have an almost perfect way in which to produce EMF effects deeply within the body. And again, with knowing that we're almost 90% water, and water conducts electricity and is susceptible to magnetic waves, as we see in thunderstorms. When two big thunder clouds hit each other, they create that big arc of lightning that doubles the charge. I'm very concerned that 5G may produce effects like these we already see produced from lower frequency EMFs, but are much more severe. I'm also concerned that we will also see responses that are quantitatively different. Let us give you 3 possible examples of the latter type and 1 qualitative example. Each of the 4 types of blindness have downstream effects of the VGCC activation as causal factors. Cataracts, detached retinas, oh my, so you get a nice little pulsed electromagnetic wave in your face, could it detach your retinas? Glaucoma, and macular degeneration. So I guess somebody wouldn't even know it if they were to start bathing an area at a particular frequency that would fry the retinas in people's eyes, making everybody in the area blind. Weaponization. This guy's got the PhD. I'm just reading the article. These are things you don't think about. The aqueous and virtuous humors, Vitreous, Vitreous, humors in the eye may be an ideal environment for the regeneration of the electrical fields. So I guess they could short circuit the retina behind your eye with the right frequency and the right energy level, right pulsation rate, maybe phase the array. We may therefore have a gigantic epidemic of each of the 4 types of blindness. Wow, what a way to attack a population of people. If everybody was blind, I guess they'd all wind up eventually dying. Are we living in the twilight zone? Another concern focuses on kidney dysfunction, which was shown in Chapter 5 to be impacted by EMFs. The kidneys have much fluid, both blood and also what will become urine, which may allow the regeneration of electrical fields. Remember, your body is mostly water, and you can get the electrical fields to travel through your body. Such regeneration may be expected to impact both the glomerular filtration, and also the reabsorption, both essential to kidney function. All right, I'll get back to the magazine in a moment, but I have a few documents I want to look at, things I've been printing out and reading over the year. The FullertonInformer.com. So this is not just me or just this author in the magazine with a PhD. Many people are sounding the alarm on this issue. And with all these other things going on in the world, knowing there's plans for a global world order and anti-social conditioning against nationalism, and a lot of people are falling for it. If they get what they want, they're not going to like the global world order. The wireless agenda, purloining their fecundity, the next generation betrayed, enslaved, and ending up depraved. You can see the link there and the website. The FullertonInformer.com, the wireless agenda. So I'll just read a little bit from this. That is a great question that will be asked someday soon, unless we wake up to what is being done to our children. I implore all of you to please read this article in its entirety. This is vital information. This may be the most important article that you have ever read in your entire life. That seems pretty dire. As parents, we all work hard and naturally want the best for our children and look forward to watching them someday have a family of their own. We live in a brave new world indeed. However, and microwave radiation has firmly established itself as an integral part of everyday life. In 2014, it has found its way into your workplace, your home, and now even your children's classroom. So what if I told you that wireless radiation is illegal in California to spray into a K-6 classroom? I firmly believe that autism epidemic is a direct result of wireless radiation exposure, and you can read more about that here on the FultonInformer.com. He's got the link, Autism Capital State of the Art. So what if, under the guise of progress, 21st century learning, and the rush to keep up with technological advances, we unknowingly had our children relinquish their reproductive rights by implied consent to classroom microwave EMF exposure? Is there an agenda behind the wireless classroom model being rolled out all over the world? I truly believe that there is. Well, we all know that the elite are obsessed with overpopulation. Even in Georgia, USA, the Guidestones say they want a world population of 500 million. And again, it doesn't take a whole lot of thinking to think this through. The people who want the global world order, the elite, don't want to feed and maintain 6 billion people. And with the coming online AI and wireless transmission systems, facial recognition, frequency controls, they should be able to control 5 million people as slaves all over the world. Not 5 billion. So for this ideal utopia they want a lot fewer people. You can see how the elite would think that way. I remember when I had a jet ski in Florida, you know, it would be nice. You go spend $5,000-$6,000 on a brand new jet ski, and you want to go out onto the waterway, the lake or the river, and zoom around. Then I noticed they put up all these signs that you're not allowed from a mile near the shore, 2 miles, and all these areas where you were banned. Elite people, wealthy people with their homes on the waterfront didn't like the noise. They had more power and control than the rest of us. So right now, with 6 billion people, they give us things like peak oil and global warming caused by humans, sustainability. It's nothing more than in this future world, these elite people do not envision the rest of us being around. And if you believe that, and you can see that, and you can rationalize it and think it through, and then they're putting in these kinds of control systems, these advanced technologies, you have to say to yourself, oh my, they can get their wish. They can turn some buttons and dials. Computerized system, metadata, eliminate the people they don't want. I've gone over lots of books on these topics. The Population Bomb, The Limits to Growth book, series 27, in my series Freemasonry and Satanism. I can't see the Population Bomb to tell you the series, but you can look it up or go buy the book. Buy the Club of Rome. Buy these elites. says here in this article that I've been reading in the Fullerton Informer, the overpopulation myth continues to be propagated by academia with our tax dollars ad nauseum and the clinical insane eugenicists. And remember, there are some folks bent on a world order, a new world order, globalism. And apparently President Donald Trump just gave the Zionist Palestine to fulfill a biblical prophecy, which calls for controlling the whole world. That's a coincidence. These people who are chosen to rule the world, God's chosen people, so they say. Do you believe that? And if you look at some of the statements some of these people say, go look and see what Benjamin Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel, said in Fink's Bar. You won't believe it. Stop this video, write that down. Benjamin Netanyahu, Fink's Bar. Or Prime Minister Sharon, former Prime Minister of Israel. What he said in a heated argument in their Congress 23 days after 9/11. Don't worry about America, we control America. And the Americans know it. So I guess the elite people in Washington, D.C. and the United States know exactly who did 9/11, which brought about the destruction of all those countries in the Middle East. And you can go look up maps for a greater Israel. So I'm just saying, these forces are at work for a global world order, and they have all these weaponized technologies. AI, artificial intelligence, threat levels. What can those computers do if they're programmed to step up the next level? People making videos like mine, people watching videos like mine, people who are awake. Can they know who's awake and who's not awake? Yes. This author says, the fact of the matter is, there is so much open land on this planet that it is ridiculous. And I totally agree with that. You can hop on a plane in Orlando, Florida, fly to Charlotte, North Carolina, and in between the cities, you're going to find vast forest and farmlands. That's on the east coast of the United States. You can fly from New York City to Charlotte, North Carolina. Even Philadelphia. You're between the cities, you're going to see a lot of farmland, a lot of forest. And gosh, if you fly from North Carolina, Charlotte, to Texas, or New Mexico, or Canada, or Mexico, or Central America, South America, fly from Florida to Cancun and see the Yucatan, an intense size of a jungle. So I think all that overpopulation thing is a deception. But that's me, my analysis after the research. So I could go on with this article. But you got the idea, you can go look it up. There's another one here concerning to me and involving wireless systems. We all know the credit cards now have the chip on them. And you can't walk out of the grocery store or the shopping center with something. You get to the door, the alarm will go off. Because it has a little tiny thing with an antenna in it, and the electromagnetic field puts a voltage into it, so it emits a signal. So you try to steal something, and they haven't taken that chip off or neutralized it, it's going to go off. So the same thing happens when you drive down the road with the chips in your cards or in yourself. A lot of children are microchipped. I learned about that in 2012. California, Texas, and some friends of mine told me they were doing it at the VFW on weekends. Parents were bringing their children in to be microwaved. These electromagnetic pulses or signals can track anybody wherever they are. And if they want to neutralize or eliminate somebody and they know where you are and there's transmitters all around you, I suppose they could send some high energy signals to neutralize or eliminate a person. cause them to have a stroke, a heart attack, or just drop dead. So that was Beware the Microchipping of Children. You can go look this stuff up. I encourage people to please do it. It's important. The human race, our reality is at stake. Our children and children's children. There is no denying that microchipping a child gives parents a sense of security. For some, having a child microchipped will seem big brotherish. Yet for other parents, microchipping can seem a reasonable solution for a child who wanders. But you can't help but feel that something sinister lurks beneath the surface. Another document I have here, Mercola. Do you buy any of your vitamins or health foods or devices from Dr. Mercola? Watch him on TV, on the internet? What does he say about this electromagnetic problem? The importance of electromagnetic field remediation in the treatment of chronic disease. According to Dietrich Kinghart, women should take drastic steps to lower their EMF exposure during pregnancy to reduce the risk of having an autistic child. Microwave radiation from cell phones, Wi-Fi routers, similar devices concentrate 20-fold in the womb, meaning wherever the reading is outside the womb, the measurement will be 20 times higher inside the womb. So much for the non-penetration of these electromagnetic energies reaching inside the bodies. According to Mercola, Take Control of Your Health, you can go look up this document. Klinghardt found the average exposure of an autistic child to high-frequency electric fields from household currents and microwaves from cell phones and other wireless technologies was 20-fold higher than that of non-autistic children. So maybe this explains why the children are autistic. Sometimes I gotta take a drink of water. I can't speak. Your throat gets dry when you're talking like I do. Non-ionizing cell phone microwave radiation has been linked to Alzheimer's, and infertility, especially in men, both of which, like autism, are rocketing skyward in terms of prevalence. One of the best strategies to eliminate exposure to ALF, electromagnetic fields, during sleep, as this is the most important time for your brain. Details on how to do this, as well as many other remediation strategies, are discussed. So there's 7 pages here if you want to learn about some of the things you can do to remediate the dangerous effects of these electromagnetic systems that are ever increasing in our reality. So people don't believe they're geoengineering. HAARP transmitters, HAARP, every up in Alaska, down in Puerto Rico, up in Norway, over here in India. So all over the world, 40 acres of a transmitter. Down here, 40 acres of a transmitter. Up here, and there's more of these coming online all the time. Down there in China, they can have these huge radiation fields bounce off the ionosphere. They can aim them like you can aim a gun and radiate a whole city or a whole state or a whole town. And certain frequencies have been found to cause people to go crazy, to get agitated, to get depressed, to get elated. They discovered this in Project Montauk. a military base at the end of Long Island. They had something called a SAGE antenna that was over World War One, scanning the horizon back and forth. And they found out that when they turned it on, it kind of made the animals in the local towns and areas go crazy, running right through the city streets. And it also affected the people, a little bit of lunacy, like a full moon. You can look this up, Project Montauk. I've made videos on these. I'll be re-releasing some videos on these topics, Philadelphia experiment, etc. So they know what they can do with these frequencies. And they learned a lot of this sometimes by accident. God forbid they find out something that's happening that kills people. They don't think like the rest of us, these people who want this global world order. They don't say, well, we need to fix that so it doesn't harm everybody. They think that, wow, this kills people? Let's make more of them. They had to go to Alaska twice to get the swine, which is it? The bird flu, an epidemic they had 100 years ago. I forget the name of it. An epidemic, a plague. They had to go to Alaska twice because that's one place where it broke out. And they were looking for a frozen body. They were hoping somebody died outside of an igloo or a house. It was freezing up there. And that when they could find a dead body from somebody who had this particular plague, Spanish flu, excuse me. So they went up there twice, one particular scientist did, and he did find an old lady who had wandered off with the Spanish flu, and he did recover the virus, the plague. So why would our elites do that from these black ops programs, these laboratories that operate in secret, developing all these types of weapons? It's kind of insane to me that anybody would even try to replicate and bring that Spanish flu plague back to reality. You think? So just when you put this stuff into context and you see what they have available now, the technological advancements, it should cause people to have some concern. Look what they did with 9/11, World War I, World War II. You know, the German Christians and the British Christians and Americans all shooting machine guns and bombs at each other. How insane was that? And then, of course, after 9/11, all that phosphorus, liquid, like molten metal and stuff dumped from the sky, bombs and machine gun fire on all those people in all those Arab countries. How horrific must that be even today, still going on? But these are the people who are controlling our reality with these systems I'm talking about. So geoengineering scientists terrified on projects he helped create. So they're dumping heavy metals in the sky. They have all these electromagnetic transmitters, HARP systems, directed energy beam weapons, cell phone towers, ELF towers. Every couple miles, low frequency pulsation rates. Boom. Boom. All right, so this was January 2nd, 2015. Dr. Matthew Watson from Bristol University in the UK told the media recently that he's terrified, 2015, by many of the geoengineering projects started to thwart man-made climate change, a phenomenon being hawked as an excuse for weather modification programs by many of the mainstream science as a threat to humanity. I personally am not buying the global warming phenomena. I think climate change is these elites using these technological weapons, the dumping the heavy metals in the sky, and using all kinds of HARP systems or other transmitters to charge up those particles and steer the jet stream, create droughts or floods, or steer or increase the potency, the effect of hurricanes. And there's a lot of other people who believe that, and a lot of evidence showing, even when we had the last two hurricanes this year, Florence and the one that went into, what was that, Texas? There's a lot of videos. You could see the radiation patterns on radar systems, and a lot of people were making the videos. I think in Florence, one person was checking the buoys out in the ocean, Atlantic, and was saying, wait a minute, the news is showing the hurricane right here, but the buoy on my computer says the wind is only 20 miles an hour, not 80 miles an hour. So can they take a tropical weather front, and when it gets close to land, and I saw all kinds of evidence of them dumping heavy metals in the sky, charging up the particles, can they stall the system, increase the strength of the system, and cause it to just sit over the coastline of North Carolina and do what it did? And a lot of people have pointed out evidence saying that this is true. And even governments have been accusing each other lately of controlling the weather. So you put all this stuff into context, and this particular scientist saying he's terrified by the projects he was working on. You can go look that up. So this is a document called Global Research. You can go look this up. The Dirty War on Syria, The Globalization of War, America's Long War Against Humanity. You can get all these books. Towards a World War III Scenario, The Dangers of Nuclear War, Globalization of Poverty and the New World Order, Seeds of Destruction, Hidden Agenda of the Genetic Manipulation. And apparently these chemicals and the stuff they're dumping in the sky, a lot of it can be biological, dried blood with certain kind of DNA components in it, and we breathe it in or get it in our body. Apparently they're using different techniques to mess with our genetic DNA. And recently I was watching or reading one press release or an article that they are weaponizing or using bugs, mosquitoes, to carry different kinds of DNA to alter our DNA when they bite us. So they're going to, what an ingenious idea, to weaponize a mosquito and other bugs. Just saying, these people are not leaving any of these evil technologies out of the loop. Some crazy people running this planet. America's War on Terrorism, the Global Economic Crisis, the Great Depression, the globalization of NATO. So there's plenty of books to go get. Here's the website where I found these. store.globalresearch.ca. Justice Belied. The Dirty War on Syria. We know that Syria's been under attack for a long time, part of 9/11. I was looking at this article here. Do cellular phone towers cause cancer? And this was by the cancer.org, so I was a bit suspicious of them. And I read this page, and I guess I was correct, because I can see some of the things they're saying are not true. Some people have expressed concern that living, working, and going to school near a cell phone tower might increase the risk of cancer and other health problems. This is cancer.org. At this time, there is very little evidence to support this idea. And I just showed you where they're refusing to do any testing, even passing legislation. So they don't have any evidence because they refuse to test. How convenient. So there is very little evidence to support this idea, but they're refusing to do any testing and have any public information out there. And I have a 90-page document I will show here in a moment. They know exactly what can happen. In theory, there are some important points that would argue against cellular phone towers being able to cause cancer. And I wrote here on my notes, they have refused the testing, therefore they do not have any negative data. How are you going to have negative data if you don't do the test? And they're refusing to accept any test by outside parties. Inadmissible. Not peer-reviewed. We don't control that data. Like all that information about 911. They're even talking about peer reviews for people who are into UFO research. If we don't approve it, it's not authorized information. You got to be part of the social group and be approved. I just thought the article there on the cancer.org, if you read that stuff, and you can start to see through the lies if you become a little bit educated. I also went online. This was just a simple little thing I did. It took only about 1 second, and you can do it too. But I went on Yahoo search and I said, what frequencies do microwaves operate on? That's a pretty simple question. What frequencies do microwave ovens operate on? Do you want to know? What's it have to do with 5 gigahertz, 5G, 4 gigahertz, 3 gigahertz, 2 gigahertz? So it's at 2.45 gigahertz. Huh. Same frequencies they're using. But it even says it here. This was the astonishing piece of information. I get this question all the time as we discuss dielectric loss in my classes. The common answer I get back is that this is the frequency for the resonance of a water molecule. And if something resonates, you get a frequencies that the same size as something. It causes it to agitate and vibrate, and it destroys it. So if they're emitting frequencies the size of water molecules and oxygen molecules, just consider that. If they can destroy those molecules in the air, those water molecules, oxygen molecules, because the frequencies are the exact same size, certain millimeters, then they could actually suffocate a bunch of people by turning on a system and destroying or altering the oxygen molecules. Think about it. They could kill the oxygen in the air. They could destroy it. An oxygen molecule is something. Hydrogen molecule, water molecule, H2O. So it says here, it's the reason that it's 2.45 gigahertz is because it resonates with water molecules. It would make an ideal frequency to run the oven so we get the most absorption rate. But not always is the obvious answer the correct answer. After all, is it a coincidence that 2.45 gigahertz is also the same frequency of an 802.11ab Wi-Fi? Oh my. So the frequency that operates in your microwave to heat up the food by agitating the water molecules is the same frequency as an 802.11ab Wi-Fi. I guess that would explain why it would bother you when you were sleeping, or bother me, or maybe cause people to become sterile or children to become autistic. You think? The same as Bluetooth and the Nyquist for the PCI Generation 2 operating at 5 gigacycles. So I did look it up and I said, what is the size of a wavelength for 2.45 gigahertz? And it's 122 millimeters. Real small. So knowing it's 122 millimeters, I got my brain in order and I said, what's the size of a red blood cell? You can do this. You don't need to be a scientist to look up some documents and find out the size of this stuff. So just envision this. You get a wavelength about this size, and you get a red blood cell this size or this size, anywhere in the same area, and they can fine-tune those frequencies to be the exact size. And again, that's how water molecules get agitated and cooking your food. Like cooking the blood in your body. So it's 7.8 micrometers, a red blood cell. So at 2.4 gigahertz, it's 122 millimeters. And we're doing 5 gigahertz. So the wavelength is a lot smaller, the size of a red blood cell. The high frequencies. All right, I'm almost done with my little other documents review. So on this magazine article, it did reference this document, and I encourage you to do what I just did. This is 90 pages here, and I've been reading it. Free online. I'm going to give you the link. 5G, great risk for EU, United States, and international health. Compelling evidence for 8 distinct types of great harm caused by the electromagnetic field, EMF, exposures and the mechanisms that cause them. So do you think there's been any studies? Well, there have been some studies. This stuff is not harmless. It's extremely dangerous. And if we look at the motivations of the people behind the scenes that are controlling these systems, passing legislation that local governments and local citizens can't interfere with the installation. Even the FCC chairman, I showed a video about him speaking, that he was not going to allow anyone to get in the way of the installation of the 5G network in the United States. That there was an untold amount of money to be made by these systems. So this is written and compiled by Martin L. Paul, PhD, the guy who wrote the article, for this magazine article. Professor of Biochemistry and Basic Medical Sciences, Washington State University, Portland, Oregon. It's got his email here. It's got a summary. I've been looking at this. We know that there is massive literature providing a high level of scientific certainty for each of the 8 pathophysiological effects caused by non-thermal microwave frequency EMF exposures. This is shown to be from 12 to 35 reviews. This is shown in from 12 to 35 reviews on each specific effect. So I got 8 effects, and on each effect there were 12 to 35 reviews, with each review listed in Chapter 1, providing a substantial body of evidence on the existence of each effect, such as EMFs. So he's got 8 problems with these 5G frequencies listed here, and each one of the 8 has had 12 to 35 reviews, and it's all in this document. I'm going to show you where you can find it online. Number 1, Remember, there were 12 to 35 reviews on each specific effect. There are 8 effects mentioned here. Attack our nervous system, including our brains, leading to widespread neurological, neuropsychopathic effects, possibly many other effects. The nervous system attack is of great concern. You think so? Number 2, attack our endorphin, that is our hormonal system. In this context, the main things that makes us functionally different from single-celled creatures are our nervous system and our endocrine system, the hormonal system. Even a simple planaria worm needs both of these. Thus, the consequences of the disruption of these two regulatory systems is immense, such that it is a travesty to ignore these findings. I realize this is a longer video than usual, but this is a very concerning topic. So number 3, produce oxidative stress and free radical damage. Oxidative stress and free radical damage, which have central roles in essentially all chronic diseases. So we know the free radicals cause cancer and other diseases. Number 4, attack the DNA of our cells, producing single-strand and double-strand breaks in cellular DNA, oxidize bases of our cellular DNA. These in turn produce cancer, and also mutations in germline cells, which produce mutations in future generations. So like I talked about what causes tumors and cancers, when your white cells in your body and other defense mechanisms in your body see things that's not right, like genetically modified foods, Monsanto, etc. They attack it and they get on top of it, surround it, and create something to try to consume it or eat it or kill it. That's how you get a tumor. It's trying to eliminate something detrimental, dangerous in your body. So when the frequencies can alter your DNA strands in your body and other things, they are treated as enemies. And we also understand damaged, mutated DNA will produce damaged and mutated humans. 5, produce elevated levels of apotheosis, programmed cell death, events especially important in causing both neurodegenerative diseases and infertility. A lot of things they can do with these high frequencies technologies. Number 6, lower male and female fertility, lower sex hormones, lower libido, and increased levels of spontaneous abortion, and as already stated, attacks the DNA in sperm cells. So if they're obsessed with population, for the only reason is they don't need so many people, they don't want to feed so many people or so many people to use gas or oil or the natural resources so they can have their utopia. As far as I'm concerned, Earth is a huge planet and we barely have scratched the surface, literally, of the natural resources. I mean, think about the whole planet. I mean, in some places they've dug a few holes, but the whole planet has been barely scratched. I suspect that's why in California and other places they're causing droughts and creating all those fires. California used to be a huge state for gold mining, and with all the people owning all those properties with beautiful green lawns and communities, you can't just go take those lands. But if you cause droughts and you burn everybody out, and you use today's advanced technologies and satellite systems to see what's below the ground, maybe they know there are things there that they don't want to share with the rest of us. Gold and other mineral resources. I think the people who control our planet are quite sinister, as we've all seen. 7. Produce excessive intercellular calcium and excessive calcium signaling. Number 8. Attack the cells of our bodies to cause cancer. Such attacks are thought to act via 15 different mechanisms during cancer causation. You got a 90-page report here. I printed out the whole thing. So I'll be looking at this again in future videos. There are also a substantial literature showing EMFs also cause other effects, including life-threatening cardiac effects, so they can cause heart attacks. They can kill people with these frequencies. That's in chapter 3 of this document. In additional substantial evidence suggests EMF causation of very early onset of dementia, including Alzheimer's, digital and other types of dementias. Chapter 3, there is evidence that EMF exposure to utero and shortly after birth can cause ADHD and autism. Chapter 5. Each of these effects is produced via the main mechanism of action of microwave lower frequency EMFs. Activation of the voltage-gated calcium channels, the VGCCs, Chapter 2. Each of them is produced via what is called downstream effects of the VGCC activation. It follows from this that we have a good understanding not only that these effects occur, but also how they can occur. An extraordinary sensitivity to the VGCC venture voltage sensor. That would be the membranes of your cells. To the forces of EMFs tells us that the current safety guidelines allows us to be exposed to EMF levels that are something like 7.2 million times too high. Well, that's a tad bit too high, you think? That sensitivity is predicted by the physics. Therefore, the physics and the biology are each pointing to the same mechanism of action of non-thermal EMFs. 90 pages. I'm going to show you where to get this. So anyways, I'm going to read from this document, but I had 2 more pages I just printed out. I just asked myself a dumb question. If I wanted to find out more information about this topic, so I searched the dangers of the 5G technology. That's all I put on a Yahoo search. And there is a whole page of results here. But anyways, you can look it up. The scariest 3.5 minutes ever, 5G. Must watch. The scariest 3.5 minutes, 5G. So plenty of results. And my question was to myself, how many results would turn up on this Yahoo search? 6.3 million results. If you want to be convinced of the dangers of this technological 5G system coming online with gazillions of antennae everywhere, permeating every aspect of our reality. The other question I had while I was at it a few minutes ago, the dangers of AI, artificial intelligence. Why Stephen Hawking and Bill Gates are terrified of AI. And many more results. So if you are curious at all and you want to know, there are 23,800,000 results on the dangers of AI. And think about it. They're going to take the control away from humans on who gets attacked or neutralized, eliminated on this World War III or World Revolution or this depopulation event, martial law, FEMA camps, and so much more evidence. Fields and fields of coffins people have photographed all over the United States. And much more evidence. I've talked about it. So it does seem that this pursuit of a global world order is real. Anyways, here's the link I want to show you before I read a little bit more and end this video. http://tinyurl.com/YCMEEEKB. So you can write that down. http://tinyurl.com/YCMEEE, 3 E's, KB. And I'm going to show it if you want to pause your computer and find this 90-page document. Or you can look up the 23 million results on AI, artificial intelligence, the dangers, or the how many millions on the 5G, on those particular keywords, 6.3 million, the dangers of 5G. Alright, I'm going to read a little bit more and end this video. I believe I've made my point. There's a system online, coming online, and just imagine like a threat level, like they do with the Terra, sometimes you're green or amber, yellow or red or orange, and as the threat level raises, the government takes more action. I suppose at level red, all over the streets will be troops with machine guns, and then orange, they might have just people with machine guns at all the airports. And amber, they just might be on an alert. And of course, green, everything is okay. So the same thing with artificial intelligence and this electromagnetic facial recognition controlling system, monitoring system, metadata, categorizing all of us. If they have it on level yellow right now, looking for terrorism, but they get ready to pull off the global world order or martial law, and they want to filter out or know who's going to be the resistor. And what's the resistor for the progressives and the liberals who take control? Then the enemy will be the conservatives and the Christians. And if they program that into a computer, those people will be targeted. On the other hand, if the people who are controlling the system are the conservative Republicans who are calling themselves Christians, want to go ahead and say that the people who are progressives and liberals are the enemies, and they program that code into the computer, that metadata will target those people, and the weaponized systems will go after them. Imprisonment or killing them. So it's controllable. So I guess we just have to look at this from a bird looking on the outside of the whole horizon of our reality and see who the enemy is to these people pursuing a global world order. It appears, as per biblical prophecy, It's the Christians and other decent people, because the people who control our world were promoting the decadent, progressive, do-as-thou-wilt society. At least they were for Barack Obama's 8 years. And then they got us President Donald Trump, who's taking the hard line, doing some crazy things. Even troops down at the Mexican border right now with machine guns, on a press release I saw today, with the advancing column of migrants coming from Central America and Mexico. Somebody's playing with our minds, and they have all these weapons. And they're planning on a depopulation event, so it seems. We've all seen the horrors since 9/11. And a lot of people aren't over there in the Middle East. They haven't seen all those men, women, and children machine gunned and bombed and starved, and the water supplies destroyed, sewer systems, agriculture, buildings. It looks like a war zone in all those countries and all those towns and all those cities. It's because it is a war zone. And apparently they're planning it for everywhere. But they have to have a way to police the rest of us. And this is all according to biblical prophecy. The people who refuse the mark of the beast won't be able to buy or sell. They want to get rid of cash, have a cashless society. Genuine 5G testing crucial, according to this author. Does this mean that 5G will produce very large increases in kidney failure? The only way to find out is to do biological safety testing of genuine 5G radiation. I agree with that. They should do testing before they turn it on. You think? Seems rational and reasonable to me. It seems insane not to, and especially to pass legislation, as I've shown, where they refuse to do any kind of testing on this. And they say there's no evidence to show that it's harmful to humans, because they've been refusing to do any testing. They've had evidence. People have produced it. Some of those scientists were eliminated. We live in a strange world right now. Let me give you a third example. Fetuses and very young babies have much more water in their bodies than do adults. Therefore, they may be at special risk for impacts of 5G because of the great increases in the regeneration of the electrical fields. Here one can think of all kinds of possibilities. Let me suggest two. We may have a gigantic epidemic of spontaneous abortion due to tetragenetic effects. Another possibility is, instead of autism being one birth in 38, however horrendous that is, it could be 1 out of 2, or even a majority of births. So what do you think? We're under attack? Does the evidence show us that already? And these are the weapon systems they have, the things they could possibly cause. Will they do it? What have they done elsewhere? It's kind of rhetorical questions I'm asking. Of course they're going to do it. Of course they have done it. There's all kinds of evidence. I've got all these books I've been making videos on. Books to go. The most dangerous book in the world. 911 is a mass ritual. All kinds of satanic symbolism everywhere we look. The devil's chessboard. I've been reading this book. Crazy information. Presidents who speak up and say secret societies are repugnant to the American way of life, and I intend to expose them. Then he's assassinated shortly thereafter. Go listen to President John Kennedy's famous speech. Just Google it, Yahoo it, search it. It'll show up. Check the timing. Check 911. See what Prime Minister Sharon said from Israel 23 days after 911 in a heated argument in his Congress. Don't worry about America. We control America, and the Americans know it. So if they control America and we just had 911, that means they controlled 911. Big, thick books I have to go over here. The CIA and its allies in control of the United States and the world. These are some books I just got in the mail. Deadly Deceit. Who is the CIA? My 25 years in the CIA, Deadly Deceit. Here's a guy who was in the CIA 25 years. Got a book, Deadly Deceit. Who should we believe? This author? So what if a majority of the babies born today, tomorrow, if they turn on the system, radiate the hospitals, a majority of them are autistic or are born dead, die within seconds, or they're not born alive at all. Kill them in the fetus. I don't know that these things will happen, but these are the kinds of risk we are taking, and there are many others one can contemplate. Putting in tens of millions of 5G antennae without a single biological test of safety has got to be about the stupidest idea anyone had in the history of the world. Now come on, if you're watching this video, can you ask yourself a question? From all that I've talked about, if they refuse to do any testing and they know what it can do, is that the stupidest thing in the world? And who's stupider, them for doing it or the rest of us for allowing them to do it? This brings us back to the earlier point. The only way to do 5G safety testing is to do genuine 5G biological safety testing. I have published on how to do this at a relatively low cost and have told the FCC how this can be done. Those tests must be done by organizations completely independent of industry, and that leaves out both the ICNIRP and the SCENIHR, whoever they are, people who regulate the transmission of frequencies like the FCC, and a lot of other organizations. Now we will get into the precautionary principle, which is especially relevant to the EU, but may have lessons for all of us. Aronis Vincentis' last full paragraph reads as follows. This is a leader over in the EU. The recourse to the EU's precautionary principle to stop distribution of 5G products appears too drastic to measure. So this is what the leaders are saying. They don't want anybody to interfere with the installation of these systems. And after what I've talked about, these articles and books, who controls the elites, the huge corporations, 911, and so much more, we the people having very little voice, and their obvious acknowledgement of pursuing a global world order, a new age, and a lot of evidence that they're anti-Christian, fulfilling a biblical prophecy, yet again. We need first to see how this technology will be applied and how the scientific evidence will evolve. Please be assured that the Commission will keep abreast of the scientific evidence in view of the safeguarding the health of European citizens at the very highest level possible and in line with the mandate. So he's saying he doesn't want to have any precautionary measures, but they will be monitoring the system. So when they turn it on, of course, it'll be too late. Human chain protest against 5G continues in August 2018. Research stop5g.net, a human chain to stop 5G in Spain. So are the Spanish people from Spain smarter than we people in the United States? There have been demonstrations in the United States. We need these all over the world. Ireland, Britain, Germany, Austria, Brazil, Chile, Canada. Citizens worried about the 5G pilot tests carried out in Segovia, Spain. I accidentally turned off the computer. Well, thank you for watching this video. Leave a comment below. Let me know what you think. Rick Miracle reporting.